Care. It's a pet, kind of a pet industry first on a dog subscription plan, and it's really about making routine care easy and affordable. So again, just ways that we're continuing to evolve as a company, focused on really omni expansion, both online and offline.
Yeah, it's incredible. There was a time where you thought of your pet store purely as the place to go for food and toys, and how far you've evolved into the areas of support, because it's like owning a child, right? It's I've learned this in the last year, how much it takes to own a pet, and the support through that journey is pretty incredible, that you have really adjusted the focus and mission towards. That's great. Now, businesses have really found the need to invest more in digital capabilities to serve customers in 2020. There, a lot changed as we accelerated certain behaviors during that time. So tell us a little bit more about Petco's journey in their digital acceleration.
Absolutely. So a big piece of it is really the omni component. So it's really, how do we integrate our strong digital presence with our nationwide physical network, just a little under 1,500 stores. So one of our key pillars is just around convenience. So whether it's same day shipping, buy online, pickup in store, curbside pickup, again, how are we really fueling those omni shopping experiences? Especially as we start to see customer behavior shifting. Really, what's interesting within the omni-channel retailers, we often get compared to our online competitors of the world. The number of customers who engage with Petco across multiple channels has grown over 20% over the last 3 years. And why that's so important is the value of those customers is anywhere from 3 to 6 times higher compared to just a single channel customer. So really, as we look within, again, just our overall database and customers, and where we're kind of, what is that entry point, and how are we kind of cross-selling them into other channels to drive that lifetime value.
Wow. It's so many different inputs guiding the direction at this point. And marketing has become, I think, so much more strategic as a result of all those inputs. So it's exciting to figure out, the way that you've let that acceleration kind of guide your journey. So tell us a little bit more about how do you think about your audiences? There's obviously a certain individual that has a certain household that is best aligned with the Petco brand, those that own a pet. But the audiences are important, and what media channels are you focused on for really building your brand and future customer acquisitions?
Yeah, so within customer acquisition, our key focus is smarter acquisition. We work really closely with our customer insights team to sharpen our audience across second and third party specifically. So it's really beyond demo, right? Who are those audiences that we're showing up in front of? Our lookalikes have really evolved. Within our first party strategy, we have life cycle segments, cohorts. So how are we modeling off of those highest value cohorts to bring higher value customers into the enterprise? And a lot of propensity modeling that's taken into place. So more of that RFM model, recency, frequency, and that monetary value. And that really ties to what we discussed on that cross-category conversion. So a lot that we're doing within first, second, and third party data. And really, as we think about how we drive that from a channel perspective, we lean pretty heavily into our Nielsen media mix model, which does a blend of both revenue and customer models. So really, we call it our flywheel, and it's really that equal parts of demand creation and fulfillment channels. And really what the tool and model allows us to do is the visibility into which channels are driving customer acquisition across both offline and online. So it allows us to look beyond last click into really what is that kind of full funnel approach and value that we're driving.
It's funny. There was a day where last click was king, and most marketers really looked at that as their beacon for how to guide marketing, and how it's evolved into this valuation across multiple channels is important. Do you find it challenging to assign the valuation across channels, or do the tools that you have really help with that?
One thing that's been really successful at Petco is we do have Nielsen as our one source of truth today. I
Mhm.
find that mission critical that there's alignment from the top down from a measurement perspective. It's still a challenge, right? I think last click, there's a comfort in it. It's attribution that everybody understands versus multi-touch attribution, which it's just, I continue to see it evolve as I continue to progress in my career. So a lot of what we focus on is a lot of how our marketing organization has even transformed is our MarTech capabilities. And how do we really focus on just better tagging and tracking and attribution that ties our metrics to business metrics? So how do we look beyond those kind of real-time media metrics to kind of really communicate that value? So I'd say the relationship between your marketing and business organizations and building that story together absolutely helps. But I still, today, there's some of that reactionary component for us to continue to build that narrative and make sure that we have that more cohesive strategy and approach.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Last year, our business especially found marketers shifting national dollars into the local space. There was a new appreciation for what it meant to be local as the country started to rebound, as different markets reacted differently to the pandemic, and we all started to feel more comfortable at different points in that progress. I hope, as of today, in a much better spot. It sure seems like it, and we're hoping that the pandemic is behind us in many ways. I think brands today took the experiences of localization and associating and aligning with those local markets, and really kind of changed their strategy moving forward based on some of those experiences. Maybe you can share with us a little bit about how Petco aligned in the previous year with local, and how that will continue to be powerful for the brand moving forward.
Absolutely. So there's so many things I'll say. I'm proud and both astonished at how fluid and nimble the company was last year during COVID. A lot of it tied to our local marketing approach. It was so much bigger beyond just a marketing local playbook. We had involvement from our in-store teams, inventory teams. It was truly a cross-functional approach where we really mapped out what is that playbook for each of the different states, right? So if states were starting to reopen and we started to notice those trends towards in-store versus states that were full closure, and we focused really more on those online offerings, it was truly, I mean, even SEO, right? Your local store listings, and just ensuring that we're providing that best customer experience and the most up-to-date information. Especially in a time, it really ties to just being there for pet parents, which again ties to our mission of it was a scary time and it was a very challenging time. And how do we ensure we get those pet essentials to those customers? And even as we thought about our services, for a window of time, we had really large impacts to things like grooming, right? When customers weren't going in store. So there was also a service layer of how do we ensure that, as states reopen, things like our vaccination clinics, how do we have them of more ease? We really started to do some really interesting stuff with online training, right? How do we show up for the customer in really meaningful ways when we are kind of in this in-home, lockdown state? And again, it's also just a way of how do we connect pet parents with their pet in authentic, and fun ways. I think a lot of people can react to the seriousness of news and kind of just the overall, how do we really have pets play that life? And, that moment in pet parents to just get us away from, the news and things of that nature into that more just fun and, entertainment. Which I think is, for me, something that I'm really excited to continue to see us go towards that direction. So that's kind of, I'd say, like the high level, but getting a bit more tactical in terms of really how we pull those different levers. A lot of it ties to local inventory, right? What is that local pricing, availability? I like BOPIS, I mentioned, buy online, pick up in store, was a huge part of our digital growth. So a lot of that within kind of your standard shopping, local inventory ads. We actually alphaed with Google for curbside shopping badges, which was really exciting. As we worked with them, we turned around that program in 2 weeks, which is not a typical undertaking for most retailers. And then beyond shopping, we're really starting to look at how other platforms are starting to evolve in this area. Dynamic ads for retail within Facebook specifically, and even dynamic display. Again, how do we really just focus on that local pricing availability versus our channels where it's more tied to the messaging with radius targeting, things of that nature. Services, I'd say there's two things that I'm really excited about it from a local perspective. One is a little bit more simple, but I always mention it because it's key to success of what we talked about of tying to business metrics. And it's just on-site success event tagging, right? An appointment is different than an online order. So as we continue to expand, again, working really closely with our marketing technology teams to really tie it to those business metrics. And one that is for me to see how our services marketing has evolved is SA360. We did a bid to capacity index. So beyond just your cost per booking, right, which is a valuable metric, how do we tie in things like staffing, actual availability to really drive a better, customer experience, but also really drive appointments that are meaningful to the business. So there were just a lot of ways that even during this rapid expansion of how do we continue to get better and hear what our business partners are seeing and really implement it into our day-to-day marketing strategies. So that's really been an exciting one for us as we really focus on building our stack and our capabilities of, again, how do we take it a click deeper than kind of your standard metrics. And the last one I'll hit on is more within our traditional channels. So we did more of a linear digital approach into what is a local spot fill strategy. So whether it's a top market, a struggling market, we have essentially like 3 different tiers so that we worked with our regional analytics team to build a test and control. But what makes it a little bit different from past test and controls that I've done in my past careers is actually tying it to foot traffic. So a lot of us have worked with, the location attribution partners of the world, like Place and Foursquare. What I've seen both at Petco and also more broadly in my experience is a lot of time, it's hard to get buy-in on those type of attribution methodologies with your business partners. Because if you're looking at control expose and tying it to a lift, a lot of times your business partners will see that lift and say, well, I'm not seeing that on my end within our core metrics. So there was a lot of education in terms of, media spend versus sales and how to really kind of, tease out some of those type of metrics in terms of what we see versus what they do. But a big piece of it was we aligned our markets to stores that had traffic counters. And we were able to build it into our dossier. So it was just, again, evolving even things that are kind of tried and true, like test and control environments, to say, how do we take it beyond transactions and really look at driving people into the store? So we got a ton of data from that test to show that it really was driving that incremental, customer acquisition, both online and offline growth. I think there's still a lot of that, things like those local strategies only drive in store, but there is absolutely a halo into our e-commerce channels as well. So that's really been something that we consider within our always on, which I hit on earlier, versus this being more of a, how do we really double down in some of those key markets based on what we're seeing in the business.
Wow. I mean, a lot of great takeaways there from what you shared, and just the way that the brand was able to align and connect with some of those those local areas, I think was powerful, and what you learned from that. It's also really exciting to hear how you took location attribution and the insights from that to connect it with real world behaviors like the would you call it the foot traffic counters or the
Yeah,
store? Yeah.
they're just traffic counters. So literally when people walk in, it's a ticker, but tying that to actual media activity, because if there's trends in certain markets where the foot traffic is down, so maybe transactions aren't, have a larger basket or AUR, but we're seeing actually foot traffic decline, building a hypothesis around when we have kind of this heightened weight media, in this market, can we actually control more people coming into the store, and saw some really great results.
Right. So were you seeing it connect once you did that? So the reporting that was initially rejected possibly as being not as indicative of the progress when you installed the traffic counters, was it able to correlate better with the reporting you found?
Yeah, and it was really the first time we did more of this test and control to prove it out. So that was truly a testament of a strong partnership with regional analytics to ensure a clean test, build a hypothesis, kind of get excitement around the building of what we were really trying to show. And it was really welcomed across the organization of how do we do more of this, which is right. Any marketer is what we want to hear. How do we do more? How do we double down? How do we build upon these learnings into our forward thinking and strategies? So it was definitely a big unlock for Petco last year.
Yeah. And how do you derive real results that are measurable? And that's incredible. Really great work. So, as we talk about changing in strategies and how people pivoted last year, one of the big things that happened was we all found ourselves at home. We found ourselves in front of the television more than ever. And as people were in front of the TV, they realized there were new inputs. They realized there was new content. The traditional day parts may not have aligned with when they wanted to watch TV. And the acceleration to streaming happened in a big way last year. So just, talk about, where OTT, CTV plays in your media mix. Are you shifting more budgets there? Directionally, what does that look like? And then any insights and learnings that you have, really kind of developed from how that's performing for the brand so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So we take a video neutral approach. So when we're planning our video activations across linear, OTT, connected TV, kind of digital native video, I'd say even something we're focused on is how social is built into this video neutral approach as their capabilities start to change. So a few ways we look at OTT and connected TV. The way we treat OTT today is an extension of linear from a targeting perspective. So we really use it to kind of spot fill the gaps of the cord cutters of the world, including myself. And connected TV is more of an alignment within our digital. So more of that, hyper local, not local, excuse me, more addressable targeting within an audience perspective. And really using, we consider it premium video when linear is less affordable. So there's times of the years where, cost per points are inflated and they're, just really costly. So how do we make our investment go further with this kind of video neutral approach? And we really also ensure we have coverage in alignment with our purchase cycles. Right. So that kind of goes within just our overall fighting across the calendar year. But we truly do plan to audience, not demo. I talked about the work we do with our customer insights team. So it's beyond demo based targeting, which is broad. And there's a really important part for that. How do we, again, just truly punch above our weight with that media spend? Looking at the competitive landscape, I think for any TV advertiser is a big component. Where can we break through and where can we apply competitive pressure learning? So something that we're continuously building into our overall strategy. And for Petco, it's quality. Fewer, bigger, better. How do we show up in these premium environments, even at sometimes with a premium CPM? I've really enjoyed seeing, across the landscape in general, more growth within non-disruptive ads. kind of either user initiated or candidly just something that just feels less intrusive. And just pod positioning when we are in linear, right? How do we ensure for any of that time shifting that we're, again, just getting customers to see our ads? It's a really big piece within our strategy. But you hit on a lot of the themes. The time spent with video has stayed true, but linear viewership has declined. Ratings are as well. It's being offset by mobile, desktop, and then a huge growth in OTT and connected TV. And that's where our focus has been as well. So we're definitely continuing to build out, our publisher set, using our NTA to understand which ones are driving more incremental value. And also just the different network groups, they're doing more of the live programming, launching SVOD services to compete with the Amazon and Netflix of the world. So it feels like, gosh, daily sometimes, continued acquisitions and mergers and just changes in the overall landscape. So it's definitely been a core focus for us to just continue to lean into these, streaming environments and where customers are starting to shift.
I would agree on the consolidations and the mergers. It's been a busy last year for many of the networks, and they're realizing the advantages of diversified approaches with ad-supported content and subscription-supported content. And many of the subscription-only platforms are finding the need to diversify into that ad-supported mix, like HBO Max. And my guess is people like Netflix won't be far behind. The interesting thing is just how brands continue to leverage that moving forward. And to your point, how do you find less intrusive ads in that environment? And maybe it's the less, the shorter ad pods. Maybe it's the fact that the commercial breaks are not as long, or you don't have as many of them. But the fact that you are able to connect with people more effectively is the important thing. And to a brand that specializes in pet ownership, the elimination of that waste through targeting has to be powerful in OTT.
Absolutely.
So, what comes along with digital as this becomes more of any marketers, any brand's focus is the evolutions, the changes. And one of those changes has a lot to do with consumer privacy. This is a hot topic right now. And, we're seeing the degradation of cookies. We're seeing, IDFA kick in. So, how is Petco preparing for this? How are you adjusting to those changes?
So one, it's a huge priority for every company, especially Petco. One that I talk about when I have these type of experiences is there's just been a lot of internal communication around it, not within the marketing organization, but the entire enterprise. This is what is happening within the landscape. This is what it means for your business. And I think that's really important that we're having a lot of that upfront communication and just understanding and allowing businesses to ask questions and understand what we are doing. Because candidly, it takes a really strong partnership between, marketing and MarTech and CRM and analytics and IT specifically. So it's really that, broad of this is truly our roadmap and what we need to do to prepare for a lot of these changes. There's a process of an audit going on right now of how do we audit and do a more consistent pull up on publishers. Some publishers candidly are more prepared than others. Our kind of our stack, right? Our different platforms, and how do we just ensure we're really taking a look within, again, our CRM audiences first party. I hit on a lot of the things we're doing within our database today, like the propensity models, really strengthening our cohorts. Some of the things we're evaluating is third-party data spine to really fill any gaps that we have within first-party attributes. So there's been a lot of, I would say, educational sessions, understanding what capabilities that can fill. And again, just allowing us to build our roadmap for what are those attributes we are unable to get to today, and how do we leverage some of these data spines to potentially fill those gaps. And in addition to that, some of the other preparation we're doing, a really big theme across the board is conversions API. I'm seeing a lot of publishers head toward that route, and just essentially how do we avoid that signal loss towards the end of 2021. So really building up, these conversion APIs that enable us to share data from our servers versus browsers. So a lot of, we've been doing like risk analysis to just understand, like without some of these APIs, like what does this mean for the business? Again, to help prioritize it against other work streams. And we're also doing some pretty interesting stuff with our partner LiveRamp to measure increase in deterministic audience reach compared to cookie-based workflow. So we're starting to do some of these more A/B testing environments. One, what will we see? How do we understand and start to communicate some of that loss to the business and understand truly how do we prioritize across the entire work stream? So a lot of, it's interesting, it's exciting in some ways, it's fun to be a part of, and it's really interesting to see the industry evolve, but there's also the reality that it's going to be a really large impact to, brands everywhere. So pretty dedicated work stream at Petco to ensure that we're front and center and ready for that change.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's hitting across all teams. Everyone's a part of this, and how you're sharing data and others are sharing data, how you're capturing data and using that for your marketing. And it's obviously become a big priority. It's adjusting today, and it will continue to evolve in how we, determine, what is the proper approach to find that audience moving forward. So let's talk about the future. Let's talk about what's ahead, and your priorities for the coming, second half of this year. Are there any new growth areas for Petco? What are you looking to promote, in the coming year?
Yeah, something I'm really excited about is the growth within our own brands. We've had double-digit growth with continued new launches. So one of my favorite new launches is a brand called Yuli. It's about expressing your true self, and there's a lot of really fun collections. There's the Proudest, which was our Pride collection, Nature Lover, which has like rain jackets. It's the most adorable thing. Wander with backpacks, the Sophisticate. So a lot of ways of like, how do we treat our own brands versus the rest of our portfolio? It almost takes us from that, classic retailer into a more direct to consumer approach, which is really fun to evolve and see that landscape change as well. One of the things we've been really focused on is social commerce, and that's both across owned and paid and earned. So we talked about the user initiated experiences for that less disruptive and higher engagement. A few of the areas like live stream shopping, we had an extremely successful first live stream Facebook shopping event in April that now we're continuing to build upon those learnings and build something into the summertime. So it's just, if any of the people on this call haven't just like tuned in to a live stream shopping event or Petco's, you can find it on our page. It's just the interaction with the customers is so authentic, and it goes away from you advertising and talking to a customer to that two-way conversational connection point. So again, it's how do we think about ways to just show up authentically. And what was really exciting about our April event too is there was also our Petco Love foundational element. Every dog that was in the runway was adopted after the live stream event. So again, how do we tie to like core values and just in a more fun, exciting way versus, kind of your traditional shopping formats, those work really hard for you, but how do we think outside of the box? Augmented reality is also an area I'm really excited about that we're starting to really dive into. Again, user initiated. So how do we really drive that engagement and those unique experiences, whether it's, phone towards face or away, we're starting to think through how within, the pet category will that evolve? A lot of clothing, brand apparel, beauty companies. So we're starting to really press the boundaries with our partners for how can we do some of those experiences with pets, whether it's trying on pet collars, things to that as, facial recognition technologies continues to get stronger and stronger. And a lot of ties to also curations. We call our online shopping our shopping mall curated shops. Instagram shops is an example. Really seeing a lot of growth within, native checkout. We use technology, McMac is a strong partner of ours. I'm really starting to see other publishers build into these native environments, which is a stronger customer experience, not having to leave platform to advertiser site. But also as those type of capabilities continue to grow, what does that mean from a data loss perspective within your life cycle marketing and kind of owning that customer information? So there's just a lot happening within that landscape. It's something I'm personally really excited and passionate about. Even some of, like TikToks of the world obviously exploded last year. So really just continuing to expand our footprint across all social platforms and channels has been something that's been really exciting.
That's incredible. Second half of the year sounds like it's gonna be pretty busy for you. There's a lot going on. And I definitely am gonna have to get Rudy one of those Yuli rain jackets.
They're pretty cute, I'm not gonna lie.
That's great. So lots of exciting things that you've shared. We're gonna pivot. We're gonna do a little lightning round, personal questions. The what's on Candice's mind these days. So first question: what are you binge watching these days?
I'm currently binge watching Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. I'm on season 3, so I definitely was a little bit late to the Handmaid's Tale game. But I'm waiting for the revolution to happen. It hasn't happened yet, but I know it is. There's just something about a strong, independent woman that just got me hooked to see how that story will unfold.
That's great. There's something about catching a series late that allows you to binge watch it. So there's nothing wrong with catching up. That's great. All right, what's your summer reading list?
I should have asked you in our prep call if I'm allowed to curse, so I'll use the censored version of Buy Yourself the Effin' Lilies. It's an audiobook, so I'm way behind the times. I still love just reading like traditional books. I never got into Kindle's digital versions, but I am starting to get into podcasts more and more, so going to try out an audiobook. But for anyone who's not familiar with it, it's about a former VP of Comedy Central. Her name's Tara Schuster, and she was extremely successful in her career, but underneath a lot of that success was anxiety and depression and self-medication. And the book is about her path to transformation, and it's all about creating a life that you love. I think those type of, I don't know if I'd classify that as self-help, but I love audio biographies that you can just like authentically understand, other people's experiences. So really looking forward to that one. That's on my summer list for sure.
That's awesome. And you mentioned it during the prep, and I don't know if you hit on it earlier, but I thought it was really incredible that Petco was focused on the mental health and the coaching for parents that had to go back to work with their pets that are dealing with some separation anxiety as people travel and leave again. So mental health is such an important thing, and it's always great to surround yourself with that positivity and the strength to get through all the changes that we go through in life. So that's awesome. The next couple. So your go-to road trip music.
I have such a diverse palette of music. So anyone who travels with me is like, what do you like? And it's everything. But I stick to like my classics. I've always loved rock. My classics like Queen, I guess more like my husband loves Cage the Elephant. So I'm like a huge fan of them now. I've seen them live. If you haven't, put on an amazing show. Lana Del Rey, The Weeknd, some of the more fun, I'd say like Bruno Mars. I have kind of a palette for everything. But those are kind of some of my top ones for sure.
Nice. I think everyone's got this list of the concerts that they can't wait to get back into now that concerts are going to start back up again. So
awesome. I went to a drive-through orchestra event probably about 3 months ago, and it was so awesome. It was really neat. So I hadn't been to a lot of the different drive-in type of events, and there was one in San Diego, and it was really neat.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay, we'll finish it off here with your favorite pet breed. You mentioned at the beginning you had a cat, right?
Yeah, he's nowhere to be found. As always, in these moments, I want to show him. So my cat Winston is a Persian cat.
Okay.
I've had Persians, not my whole life. I've had cats my whole life. Growing up, tabby cats, a lot of different just breeds, and Persian cats. I'm just in love. They're very loyal. Some of the Persian cats I've had are similar to dogs. They just follow you around. Not the typical cat. And for dogs, I will always love bulldogs. English bulldogs are one of the most adorable pets of all time, but it's hard to be biased. One of the things I love about working at Petco when we are in the office is it's funny, people know pets' names before the people's names. Like when you're having those moments of like, all right, I need to clear my head, it becomes part of your routine to just go visit people's pets. And it's also, people have snakes in the office, we have fish in the office, we've got frogs in the office. So it's all types of animals. Petco loves them all. So that's one of the really exciting parts about our overall culture. Really excited to go back.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, I know many people are ready to go back. Others are still looking for that remote environment, but one way or another, we're excited that the pandemic is behind us, and there's really exciting, good days ahead. So, Jesse, I think we're pretty much at our time. Do we have any time for questions, or we got to switch over to the next speaker?
You guys are the last of the day. I've seen a couple of things come up in the Q&A. Totally up to you guys. However you want to run it.
Yeah, so let's finish off with this last question I saw come up. So Candice, the question was, it feels like every day there's a new app, a new device marketers need to pay attention to. I'm sure you struggle with that. So how do you make sense of the fragmentation? How do you evaluate these challenges and all these channels and determine where your consumers are and where you need to be?
Yeah, it's a great question that I think a challenge for a lot of us. Something that, we've really been focused on developing in partnership with our agency team is a scorecard to evaluate across, all of these different partners' applications. So putting on through the lens of audience, targeting capabilities, right pricing, how does it fit within our current stack? So we've built a lot of that into our upfront planning to just understand, like, how do we score these different players? And also looking through the lens of what are our gaps today? So as we continue to get, approached and, learn about new offerings, what are the gaps? So a lot of that thought leadership and informational sessions for us to talk through, I have found to be of really high value. Also, I think your network is really important. One of my highest value is talking to other advertisers on who and what is working well for you. Where have you had hiccups? So that's something that, just going outside of your four walls and talking to other advertisers and networking or events like this are just extremely important. As it continues to become more fragmented, for us all to just learn from each other and continue to grow.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, Jesse, Premion and myself, we're honored to be part of this today. Candice, you're incredible. The Petco brand is thriving. The things you're doing are interesting and exciting and setting the bar for how things should be done. So thanks for all the insights today. And thanks for letting Rudy join our chat.
No.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks
so much. Take
guys.
care.
Great. I'm now going to have to spearhead an event where everyone brings on their pets for a whole day. That'd be honestly a great day. Anyways, just to wrap up, such an incredible day of programming and content from our speakers and moderators. I want to give a huge thank you to our speakers, Meredith, James, Keith, Brett, Adam, and Candice. Another huge round of applause to all of our moderators who kept the conversation going. I hope everyone who tuned in gleaned some great information on the current state of media marketing. With all that said, I want to give a quick little preview for next week's huge tentpole event. We hope everyone who is here today will join Brand Innovators next week on Monday, June 21st for day one of our Cannes Summit. We will be joined by marketing leaders from McCormick & Company, Calvin Klein, Alaska Airlines, Moda Health, 1800 Flowers, Torchy's Tacos, Intuit, Vans, and many more. Thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.